Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, you can't see the Kuhner man, obviously, but if you did, I'm pumping my fists. And the reason why I'm pumping my fists is that at least some kind of accountability, a modicum of accountability, is finally coming to Chicken Little. Or as I like to call him now, Dr. Fifth. Because all this guy does is plead the fifth. So to me, he's not Dr. Fauci, he's Dr. Fifth. So Dr. Fifth, as you know, went in front of the Senate Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee and not once, not twice, but over 100 times refused to answer questions about his role or involvement in COVID-19, the disastrous lockdowns, the origins of the coronavirus, did he fund the coronavirus, and obviously the explosive revelations, the bombshell revelations in his own personal journal or diary that was on a government server at Health and Human Services. This idiot put everything down on a professional journal on a government server. Okay, that's the kind of person you're dealing with. And he refused to answer questions, as all of you know, invoking the Fifth Amendment against self-incrimination. The problem is there's nothing to self-incriminate because of Joe Biden's auto pen pardon, which gave him a blanket, unconditional, preemptive pardon for any possible crimes, federal crimes, between January 1st, 2014 and January 19, 2025, the day that Biden left office and Trump was inaugurated. So for those 11 years, no matter what crimes at a federal level Chicken Little, Dr. Fifth committed, he could not be prosecuted. And so he had no right to invoke the Fifth. It was clear obstruction of Congress, clear contempt of Congress. Well, finally, Rand Paul, the Republicans on the committee, all of them voted in favor of contempt. It was 8-5 was the final vote on the committee. It was along party lines. Just so that you know, all 8 Republicans voted in favor of contempt. All 5 Democrats voted against. They're still trying to protect Fauci, including Fetterman. I keep hearing conservatives tell me, oh, I love Fetterman. I'm like, what is there to like? He always votes with the Democrats. Always, even on this. So he voted against the contempt charge, trying to protect and coddle Fauci, because that's what he does. I mean, he'll go on TV and take a few shots at his party. But when it comes to voting, when the rubber meets the road, he's a party man all the way. It didn't matter. It didn't save Fauci. Now the question is, what comes next? It is clear, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that what Fauci did was clearly contempt of Congress. That there is no question. And if you want to know the specifics of the law, if you are found guilty of contempt of Congress, you will serve no less than 30 days in jail. That's the minimum. The maximum is 1 year in prison for each count. So he is now facing possible, for the first time, real prison or jail time. Rand Paul said he is going to bypass a full Senate vote. And instead, he is going to go to J.D. Vance, the vice president, who's also the president of the Senate, and have him immediately certify this contempt charge, this contempt referral. So J.D. is going to certify it, approve it, and then it's going to go immediately to the Department of Justice. In fact, it's there. It's going to be waiting for them this morning on their desk. And now the question is, what is acting Attorney General Todd Blanche going to do? What is Trump's Department of Justice going to do? And in particular, we recently talked about her. This is now in the jurisdiction of Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. And Rand Paul in particular said, this is entirely now under her purview. We are sending her the referral. She has the full authority and ability, the legal basis to go ahead now, indict Fauci, have him arrested, charged, frog-marched, put in handcuffs, and then eventually prosecuted in court. And if he's found guilty, and I'm telling you he will, serve up to 1 year in jail. It is all now into the hands of Jeanine Pirro and Todd Blanche. Do they want to send this modern-day Joseph Mengele behind bars and have him get at least some accountability for the crimes that he has committed? Listen now to Rand Paul, because what the media, what the Democrats, what even many on Fox News, the Wall Street Journal, the New York Post, this is Rupert Murdoch's empire, because they were deeply implicated with Fauci and with the vaccine and with Big Pharma. A lot of their money comes from Big Pharma. And Fauci is their man. And now they're fighting for their man. They are saying, don't send him to prison. Don't prosecute. That this is a quote-unquote witch hunt. That this is politically motivated. And leave this 85-year-old man alone. That COVID was the past. We need to focus on the future. Listen now to Rand Paul's response, saying the last thing this is a witch hunt, and I'm sorry, but when you've committed the crimes that the Dr. Fifth did, that Chicken Little did, he needs to be held accountable. And holding someone accountable is not vengeance, it's justice. Roll cut 10, Mike.
Holding a witness in contempt is a serious thing, and it should be rare. But the contempt power exists for precisely this circumstance. Oversight is not a courtesy this committee extends or a favor a former official grants us. It is a constitutional obligation. And when voluntary cooperation ends, Congress must be able to compel compliance with its lawful demands. That is Congress's compulsory instrument. A subpoena is not an invitation. A subpoena with no consequence is not a subpoena. It's a suggestion. Seeking the truth is not a witch hunt. Accountability is not vengeance. Accountability is what stands between the American people and a repeat of the mistakes and the very real consequences of the past.
Oh, I'm with them all the way. And I have to say, very well said. Very well said. But I'm sorry. I just can't wrap my mind around this. I really can't. You've got talking heads now on Fox. Forget CNN, MS Now. They're losing their minds over this. You've got articles now in this morning's Wall Street Journal, in the New York Post. Again, never mind the New York Times or the Washington Post, who they're defending Fauci. And they're saying, well, come on now, let it go. This was 4, 5, 6 years ago. Since when do we give mass murderers a free pass? I just find this coming from the very same people, I'm talking about Democrats and the left now, that won't let slavery go. They won't let slavery go. These are the same people that go on about January 6th, January 6th, January 6th. They won't let it go. And you're talking about a man responsible for the greatest mass civil rights violation in American history. A man literally responsible for the murder, the deaths of millions of people around the world, including, God knows, hundreds of thousands here in the United States. And we're all just supposed to say, okay, well, hey, mistakes were made. Okay, enjoy your pension and your retirement. And thank you for your service, Dr. Fifth. No. Not in Jeff Kuhner's America. And honestly, not for the overwhelming majority of Americans. President Trump said he wanted to drain the swamp. It's one of the big reasons why I voted for him. Fauci is one of the biggest swamp creatures. He's a freaking snake. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay. Let me ask you, now that Chicken Little, Tony Fauci, as I like to call him, Dr. Fifth, now that Fauci has been held in contempt of Congress and the criminal referral has been sent over to the Department of Justice, and it is now in the hands of both Todd Blanche and U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, Jeanine Pirro. Will Fauci be indicted? Do you think he will be arrested? And will they finally try to, prosecute him and finally send him behind bars and put him in jail? Or do you think the administration is going to blink? That Todd Blanche is going to blink? That Jeanine Pirro is going to blink? And that ultimately President Trump, with a war to deal with the midterms now, what is it, less than 90 days away, is not going to want the controversy of having an indictment of Fauci as well, and that Trump is just going to turn the other way. In other words, will we see justice with Tony Fauci? 617-266-6868. Yes, no, how do you feel about it? Listen now to Senator Rand Paul saying, now that he has been held in contempt of Congress, we're going to refer this to the powers that be, and now the ball is in their court. If they want to charge him, if they want to arrest him, if they want to prosecute him, if they want to lock him up, I've given them Fauci on a silver platter. Roll cut 11, Mike.
It's breaking precedent here, and are you comfortable with that new precedent?
Well, actually, no decision has been made. The only decision that's been made so far is to bring it to the committee, and it's passed. The next decision we have decided is we will forward it. It's the committee's verdict that he should be held in contempt and it will be sent. But no one said that we won't bring it before the Senate. We'll see what happens over time. But this is outside of the ordinary bill-making process, so it doesn't have to go to the House, doesn't have to be signed by the President, and really doesn't have to go before the Senate. There is some precedent for doing it that way, and it still may be done that way. But for now, we will hand carry this over to the Attorney General. We will hand carry this to the District Court here in Columbia, and we will, as a committee, we have voted the majority to refer this, so that will be accomplished today.
So basically, and notice, but this is so without precedent. Oh, you can't do this. Come on, not the Chicken Little. Hey, not to the great Fauci. Notice, when Merrick Garland and Joe Biden, when they held Steve Bannon in contempt of Congress for refusing to answer his subpoena, they threw the book at him, 4 months in jail. When Peter Navarro, citing executive privilege, refused to answer a subpoena from a House committee, they held him in contempt of Congress. Guess what? They threw the book at him, 4 months in jail. So they can jail Bannon, no problem. They can jail Navarro, no problem. But suddenly, when it comes to Fauci, there's no precedent. No. There's plenty of precedent. You just don't want it applied because, you see, here's the dirty secret. If this thing goes to court, Big Pharma is going to be exposed. Big media is going to be exposed, including, by the way, Fox News. Fox News took money to promote the vaccine. By the way, so did the New York Post. Again, I'm talking about Rupert Murdoch's empire. Okay? New York Times did as well. Washington Post did as well. But I'm talking about Murdoch's assets. That's why nobody wants to see Chicken Little go to jail. Here, I was watching a segment yesterday, it was after the show, and news broke that, they had held him in contempt. And there was Fox, I think it was Bill Hemmer, and he had Alex Berenson on. And by the way, I thought Alex Berenson was an incredible journalist. During the entire COVID pandemic, I read his book. I thought his information, his investigative journalism was absolutely incredible. But no, there he is. He's towing the line now. He's basically an analyst now with Fox. And right out of the gate, I really don't want to see Fauci go to jail. And you see Bill Hemmer say, no, he really shouldn't go to jail. We just want him to answer all the questions. And maybe say you're sorry. I'm not kidding. That's, for all the references to your desire for fame and celebrity and fortune and how you're looking to get awards and making money, you just owe the American people an apology. We just want an apology. And I'm watching this. My jaw is practically on the floor. I'm sorry, you want, first of all, an apology from this sociopath, from this mass murderer. It means nothing. Literally means nothing. You think he's sorry? He's not sorry. He's laughing at us. So who cares about a non-apology apology? But to me, the bigger issue is, I'm sorry, do words matter or do they not? Do actions matter or do they not? He closed down the schools for nearly 2 years. He destroyed a generation of kids. Countless people couldn't say goodbye to their parents or grandparents as they were dying in a hospital. He unleashed this pandemic by funding it for years that destroyed and killed so many lives. And you're telling me now all you want is a simple, stupid apology and maybe a little rap on the knuckles? Pathetic. Honestly pathetic. And it's because the role of the media in lying for Fauci, in carrying water for Fauci, in taking money. I don't know how most of you feel, but to me, I've been feeling this like for years, pushing a rock up a hill to get Fauci indicted, to get some kind of accountability for all the crimes that he committed. And I feel now we're so close to the top of the hill with this, criminal referral yesterday by Rand Paul's Committee for Contempt of Congress. And now we're really going to see what Trump's Department of Justice is made of, because this is where the rubber meets the road. And are they serious about draining the swamp? And are they serious about holding not just corrupt bureaucratic criminals, and he clearly was a corrupt bureaucratic criminal, accountable, but we're talking now about a man who committed genocide. He's a genocidal mass murderer. I mean, that's what he is. Let's call him for what he is. And so we're going to see now, really, if Trump's Department of Justice is for real. Now, my prediction, there's going to be tremendous blowback if they don't put handcuffs on Chicken Little. If they punt on this one, I think the base is going to be absolutely livid, myself included. And it's not going to be good. It's not going to be good. And this has been years in the making, and now we finally have them, and now it's time for them to do their job. So he lied, He lied repeatedly. He took the fifth. He had no business taking the fifth. Look, to me, this is the checkmate argument. He had a full blanket pardon, an unconditional pardon for all of the crimes that he committed. So why invoke the fifth? You have no grounds to invoke the fifth. And if you don't want to have contempt of Congress, then just answer the damn questions. It's really that simple. So the question is, what are you hiding? And I'll tell you what he's hiding, and everybody knows it. It's because what he said in public directly contradicted what he was saying in reality in private through his diary. And that he lied to the American people over and over and over and gave us not just horrible advice, destructive, deadly advice that he knew in private was going to destroy people's lives. And he doesn't want that to come out, even though it's already out, but he doesn't want it to be officially confirmed. And so his narcissism, his megalomania, his self-absorbed ego, his bottomless ego, just does not permit him to truly, accurately, and fully answer questions. Now, one more point, and then I want to go to the phone lines. A couple lines are open if you want to jump on. We can talk about the referral, obviously, the contempt charge. Really, what I want to ask you is, do you have faith? Now, we're not talking Biden and Merrick Garland now. We're talking about Trump, Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, because that's landing on her desk. And of course, her ultimate boss is Todd Blanche, the acting Attorney General. So this is Trump's pick to be the permanent Attorney General. This is Jeanine Pirro, who talks a big game and has been railing against Fauci on Fox when she was a talking head on Fox for years. So now this is it. You've got him. You've got him right within your crosshairs. Will they charge him? Will they indict him? Will they arrest him? That is now the question. And should they? 617-266-6868. This is why I don't want a fake apology from this guy. Credit to the New York Post. Fauci, this was just a couple days ago, okay? Dr. Fifth was in the car, passenger seat, with his wife, Christine. She was driving the car. There was a group of reporters parked near their house. Wasn't just Fox or the New York Post, New York Times, Washington Post, CNN, MS Now, the big broadcast networks, CBS, NBC, ABC. So they had a gaggle of reporters wanting to get Fauci's, some kind of a comment on the fact that, hey, you're going to be held in contempt any day now. As she's driving the car, and you can look it up because the picture is there. It's for the whole world to see. She gives the entire press corps, this is the wife now, Christine, a middle finger. She's flipping them the bird. F you, the middle finger. A lot of people don't know this about Fauci's wife. She's been a long-time bureaucrat like him at the National Institute of Health. In fact, she was his partner in crime. You can't make this up. When he was funding gain-of-function research, when he was imposing the disastrous lockdowns and the school closings and the mask and vaccine mandates and the social distancing and everything else, she worked as the quote-unquote chief, that was her title, chief of bioethics at the National Institute of Health on human subjects research. She was supposed to oversee Fauci. The wife is overseeing Fauci. And by the way, they both made millions and millions and millions of dollars throughout the entire pandemic. He lined his pockets. She lined her pockets. She greenlighted everything that he did. And he reinforced everything that she did. And no problem with the media. No problem. Because they were swimming in big pharma money. As I said, forget just big pharma. They were paid to promote the jab, including Fox News. I want to stress that. And CNN, and MS Now, and CBS, and NBC, and ABC, and most of the big papers, starting with the New York Times and the Washington Post. So they were paid to peddle and push Fauci's lies and to get as many jabs into people's arms as possible. That's why they could not and refused to report on all of the adverse side effects. The fact that they lied to us, the biggest lie, and it's so demonstrably provable it's not even funny. When they rolled out the jab, and Fauci knew this in private, and I want to get to this in a second, but when they rolled out the jab, what did they say? Fauci said it. The CDC said it. The NIH said it. The entire public health bureaucracy said it. Everyone in the mainstream so-called big media said it because they're all taking money. It's one, and of course, Pfizer and Moderna said it. It's, quote, 100% effective and 100% safe. That's what they said. They guaranteed it. And guess what happened? You take the jab, most people still got COVID. They said, well, you can't transmit it. You can't spread it to others. People who had the jab not only got it, they spread it to others. They spread it to others who also took the jab. So that was a lie. They said it was 100% safe. Now we find out there were millions of cases, millions. Myocarditis, most extreme cases, actual heart attacks, brain tumors, blood clots, all kinds of other illnesses, strange illnesses and diseases, women not being able to get pregnant, becoming infertile, their menstrual cycles being absolutely disrupted. I could go on, and they knew this. And here's the kicker. Fauci took the jab and then 6 boosters. Jab plus 6 boosters. Sorry, 2 jabs. Okay, you got the Pfizer. 2 shots and 6 boosters. He got infected 3 times. 3 times he got COVID. He also got a pulmonary embolism, a serious side effect. Okay, this is from Mark on Messenger. Regarding now all of these claims coming from Democrats, rhinos, establishment Republicans, and almost unanimously across the media, as I said, including Fox. Jeff, please, this needs to be said. These Democrats crack me up. For the last 10 years, they've been trying to put Donald Trump in prison for crimes he allegedly committed in the past and in the present with absolutely no evidence whatsoever. And they're still trying. And they want us to just forget about what Fauci actually did with mountains of evidence to back it up. The Democrats need to go blank themselves. Fauci needs to pay the consequences and spend time in prison for what he's done. And I don't give a rat's behind how old he is. And they should have done the same thing with Joe Biden. Yes. By the way, they don't care how old Trump is. You think they cared? You think they said, oh, look at this guy. He's a man in his late 70s. We shouldn't hound him. No. But now suddenly, oh, poor Fauci. He's too old. Leave the poor guy alone. All right. Quick text, and I want to go right to the blazing phone lines. 617-266-6868 is the number. You can text the Kuhner Man 70470. This is from 617. Jeff, the fact that people like Bill in Sudbury and Chris in Gloucester are still defending Anthony Fauci should prove to you how brainwashed the Democrat Party truly is. Bingo. Bingo. Okay. Fauci now held in contempt of Congress. Rand Paul has delivered a criminal referral to both Jeanine Pirro, U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia, and to acting AG Todd Blanche. Will Fauci be charged and arrested? Should he be charged and arrested? Vince in Utah. Normally you're from Germany, you're a Deutschland guy, but now you're back in Utah. It's good to have you back in the United States, Vince, and welcome.
Jeff, you stole my thunder, but with Fauci's wife flipping the bird of the media, it just goes to show the type of sociopaths you're dealing with. But I have to ask you, Jeff, and I'll ask you again, and I know you're going to hate the question, why did we never see the Epstein files? And your answer is going to answer everything. Why did we never see the Epstein files?
Because they're covering up. I think they were covering up for Epstein. I think there's no question.
What are they covering up? Tell me what they're covering up.
You mean regarding Fauci?
No, the Epstein files.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, yeah, no, I'm sorry. No, I think, well, what they're covering up is, number one, and I mean, Vince, you know this better than I do, but they're covering up the fact that some of the most powerful people, including some of the most powerful political leaders, but including corporate business leaders, the most powerful globalists in the world, were partying and hanging out with Epstein. They were into diddling kids. And they were pedophiles. And they were molesting and abusing, underage girls and underage boys. And Epstein was blackmailing them. And furthermore, and I know this now for a fact, he was a stooge, an agent, whatever you want to call him, an asset of the CIA, of MI6, and of Mossad. He was working for all three. There's no question. And he was collecting what the Russians call kompromat, compromising information on so many powerful people that our own CIA uses to blackmail, MI6, and of course Mossad does. And if you want to bring it to Donald Trump, and I do believe Marjorie Taylor Greene on this, I do. When she was yelling and screaming at him, like, I don't understand. You campaigned on, opening and releasing all of the Epstein files. Why have you done a 180? And he yelled and screamed at her and said, because some of my biggest donors are on the list. Some of my closest political allies and donors are on the list. And I'm not going to burn them. And so I think that's why they covered it up. I mean, I don't know, Vince, is there something I'm missing or I'm not adding?
Oh, meathead of hammer. You hit it right on the head, Jeff. And that's why Fauci is never going to see the inside of a courthouse. Let's say they do charge him. The charges will be dropped at some point. This stuff will run its course, and the charges will get dropped with a little fanfare, and he'll ride off into the sunset. And the reason why is because he holds the secrets. He can burn everybody, to include Donald Trump, who authorized Operation Warp Speed. That's why you'll never see any accountability. And my final thought, Jeff, I'll leave you with this. If there's no accountability with this, as there's no accountability with Epstein, the United States is finished. We're finished, okay? This country is going to fall apart. It's going to crumble. It's going to crumble from within because we have a two-tier legal system. You could say it's a 3 or a 4-tier legal system. We have no accountability, and you've got these politicians running amok saying, nobody cares. Let's steal some more, like they haven't stolen enough already. We're done, Jeff. We're done. And the only way that's going to change it isn't phone calls to this show, isn't griping to the congressman on his hotline. It's not. It is putting fear in these people. Seth Moulton should be afraid to show his face on the street. He should be afraid to walk out the door, just like Anthony Fauci should be afraid to walk out the door, because they're like, I don't know if someone's going to gun me down if I show my face on the street. That's the type of thing that's going to change things in this country. That's the Rubicon we've crossed, okay? Political assassinations are going to become the norm, because you think people that got burned by Fauci, that lost family members, are going to sit idly by and have nobody be held to account for this? You got another thing coming.
Well, Vince, you mentioned political assassinations. It's already becoming routine on the left. I mean, I'm just being honest with you. I mean, they bump off Charlie Kirk. They've tried to assassinate Trump multiple times. I've talked about Black Lives Matter and Antifa. I mean, what do you think they do? All they did was murder people and burn cities to the ground. And people, or Islamists here in the United States, people are afraid because you get killed. And I touched on it on X, but, there was another assassination on President Trump's life. This was last week. Another one by a radical trans leftist who this is when Trump was traveling to California, and apparently he was going to also maybe do a couple of rounds at his golf course in Los Angeles. A heavily armed trans leftist with guns, with hollow point ammunition, body armor, armed to the teeth, was scoping out the golf course by a high-powered and a modified AR-15 rifle, and was looking now to scope it out and look at the holes that President Trump was going to play, and then biding his time to gun down and assassinate the president. And thank the Lord, local law enforcement, Secret Service saw this guy and said there's something suspicious, and they arrested him, and they went into his car, and they couldn't believe the arsenal he had in there. So another attempted assassination on the President of the United States. So when you talk about, the politics of assassination, we're already there. I'm just stating a fact. And look, for his wife to give the middle finger to us like this? No. That's the height of arrogance. You murdered how many? You locked down how many? How many businesses did you destroy? How many lives did you wreck? How many families did you destroy? And you're freaking, and both of you made millions of dollars? And you're giving us the middle finger? No. We're going to give you the ultimate middle finger. That's why, look, I agree with Vince. If they punt on this, I don't know what to say. Especially with the diary. That's what I meant. I said the diary buried him because you saw the real Fauci. You can't hide it anymore. Everything he told us in public, he lied, and he knew he was lying. He was laughing at us the entire time. 617-266-6868. By the way, just so that you know, this is a big development. The subcommittee, the Government Affairs, the Homeland Security Governmental Affairs Committee that Rand Paul chairs, it has a permanent subcommittee on investigations. That one is chaired by Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin. Ron Johnson now, through that subcommittee, now has gotten a hold through HHS, Health and Human Services. They got a hold of a forensic copy of Fauci's phone during the pandemic, meaning they have his texts. So they have all of his text messages now, plus millions of emails and documents that they've just discovered as well. So they've got him. They've got him 6 ways to Sunday. And so in the face of all of this irrefutable evidence, I'm sorry, you don't prosecute, then you're not serious. Then Vince is right. It really is. It's a two-tier system of justice. And the elites, forget getting away with murder, can get away with genocide and mass murder. We're not a constitutional republic. We're not a representative democracy. So to me, that's what's at stake. 617-266-6868. Agree, disagree. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
I want to give you two alternative scenarios. This is not letting Fauci off the hook by any means, but two concerns that I have dealing with this whole thing, dealing with Fauci. Before I get to that, I did see Fetterman say prior to the hearings he was concerned about Fauci and that he thought that Fauci was too caught up in his own self-importance. And that's why I probably thought that Fetterman would be a little bit tougher on him than he was. But Fetterman is also disliked a lot because of his stand on radical democratic socialism and his what he's been saying about Said and Mandami. And if you ever look at the texts about him on the tweets about him, the liberals, the far left hate him. They want to get him out of there. So I mean, he's not 100%, or he might not even be, but he's only like 10% or 20%, and they still want to get him out of there. So that's dealing with Fetterman. The two alternative scenarios are, number one, I'm still concerned about the viability of the auto pen pardon, and that has not been fully litigated in my eyes yet. And if that pardon is illegal and unconstitutional, then Fauci is on the hook for everything that he did, and the fifth would hold up under those circumstances if the pardon itself was illegal and unconstitutional. And so I'm concerned about the Republicans also punting on the fact on going after that broad pardon, because that is something that's never been done. He was never charged for a crime, and you shouldn't pardon everybody on some blanket thing, like that. I'm really concerned about that. That's the first scenario. I'm not sure about the pardon. Let's get the pardon issue handled first, and then if the pardon does hold up, then he is in contempt of Congress. That's number one. And I don't know if the Republicans like Rand Paul were actually admitting that the pardon was real, and that's why they're holding it in contempt too. I mean, this is all like legal stuff, but it's important stuff to know how far they're going to stretch the Constitution as far as auto pens and pardons and stuff like that. We need to know that first before we can really go after Fauci for lying.
You're completely right. And all I can just tell you is this. Only a president who's demented, like Biden, and completely controlled by the Chinese Communist Party would come up with an auto pen pardon and come up with this preemptive blanket pardon. Really, because it's so un-American. It's so un-Western. Forget un-American. It's un-Western. It doesn't stretch the Constitution. It shreds it. So think about what we're saying here, okay? By the way, the auto pardon is clearly illegal and unconstitutional. And again, the Republicans have no guts. They're a bunch of yellow-livered, craven cowards. I would challenge that. I'd take that to the Supreme Court immediately. Immediately. And I'm telling you, they'd win. Guaranteed they'd win. Okay, but, let that go. You have a staffer, some staffer that we don't know, sign the president's signature to give a man who was the public face of the COVID response, and you give him a pardon, not even for something specific that he did. Whatever, we pardon you for the lockdowns. We pardon you for funding gain-of-function research. Okay, in other words, you say, here was the crime, we're pardoning you for the crime. No. For 11 years, starting January 1st, 2014, all the way to January 2025, whatever you did, whatever you may have done, we don't know. You're pardoned. You could have raped women, We don't care. Molest children. Be a serial mass murderer. I'm serious. You could have a closet full of dead bodies. We don't care. You're getting a pardon. Now, I'm telling you, A, it's unprecedented. It's illegal. It's unconstitutional. And when I say un-Western, the basis of Western civilization, Western society, Western law, not just the United States. This is Canada, Europe, Australia, New Zealand, going all the way back to the ancient Greeks. I'm talking 2,000 years now. You only hold specific individuals responsible for specific crimes. You don't absolve individuals ahead of time for everything and anything they may have done under the sun. That's a totalitarian mindset. That's a communist, fascist, it's an un-American, un-Western mindset. In other words, hey, Mao, you may be a freaking mass murderer. We're going to pardon everything. Anything. Cannibalism. By the way, they did have cannibalism under Mao. I'm not kidding. Okay, they ate people under Mao. Everything forgiven. No problem. Don't worry. And then, this is the kicker. This is the slap in the face. You've been given this unprecedented preemptive pardon, which, by the way, Fauci kept saying, I don't want it. I don't need it. I really don't want it. He'd go on with Jake Tapper, who we now know is one of his best friends. And they were partying together while we were told to lock down and not have small gatherings. They were drinking $500 a bottle of wine. They were eating filet mignon, journalists with Fauci, and they were fading him. Okay, that's what a bunch of scumbags the media are. But let all that go. Jake, I didn't want it. I didn't need it. I'm grateful, but I really don't want it. In his freaking diary, he's panicking. He needs a pardon because he knows the crimes he committed. So you get everything pardoned. Look, in plain English, they can't arrest you or hold you responsible for anything you've done. And then you arrogant SOB, you plead the fifth? What are you pleading the fifth for? No, really, honestly, like what's to every liberal out there, you're pardoned. You're pardoned. You know, when you go to court and you give somebody immunity for a crime, in other words, I want to get the top mafia guy. So, I know you did the hit, but you're going to testify that he ordered you to do the hit. And we're going to give you freaking immunity. You're not going to be charged for a murder. You're getting away with a murder. But in exchange, you got to give us testimony. Well, what do you think happens? You call him up on the stand. You've been given immunity. Yep. You committed a murder. No, Fifth Amendment. I'm against self-incrimination. Well, what do you mean? You got immunity. You got basically a pardon. We're not going to charge you. So you don't have the right to invoke the Fifth Amendment because you've just been given immunity. Or else the deal is off. It's the same thing. You don't get a pardon and then also get the right against self-incrimination because that means then you have the right to obstruct an investigation. What planet are you living on? So I know it's illegal. I know it's unconstitutional. And the only reason why the media is playing stupid, and many Republicans are playing stupid, and the Democrats are playing stupid, and everybody's playing stupid, is because if he opens his big fat mouth, A, the myth of Fauci collapses completely, irreparably, but then their complicity is brought into the spotlight. Because Fauci will come out and rightly say, I don't know what the hell Fox News is complaining about. We gave them money, they took millions of dollars, and they told everybody to take the job. It was safe. CBS, ABC, NBC, CNN, I don't know what they're talking about. No, I was texting them. We were coordinating on what I should be saying on their shows. No, they were taking billions of dollars from Big Pharma to plug the vaccine and everything that Big Pharma stands for. No. What are you talking about? They all supported the lockdowns. So don't throw me under the bus, because I'm not the only one. So now it's just say sorry. Don't be overzealous. Don't prosecute. Come on, it's over now. Now they're trying to play this game about, contempt of Congress. It's so tough to prove in court. Yeah, when you went after Donald Trump, you didn't give a damn whether it was tough to prove in court or not. You wanted his head on a platter. So, no, I'm telling you, what you're seeing now is the elites who are responsible for the greatest public policy disaster since World War I. Let's be very clear. The COVID response is a disaster of the pandemic, the flu, the virus was never once in a century. Okay, remember I said they got Rand Paul's cell phone? Sorry, Rand Paul and Ron Johnson got Anthony Fauci's cell phone, a forensic copy of his phone, and they're already going through all of his text messages, and they've also now found millions of documents, including his emails. Well, guess what? Rand Paul now has just tweeted out the following. Anthony Fauci's own emails prove it. Publicly, he dismissed the lab leak theory. Privately, he admitted that's exactly what was happening. This is not science. It's the very definition of a cover-up. Now, that's the same thing in his diary, by the way. In his diary, he says, almost within the beginning of the pandemic, he says, no, this is from the lab in Wuhan. No question. But in public, for over a year, the wet market, this came from monkeys, from rats, from chickens, from you name it. And then he put pressure on everybody else, the entire public health bureaucracy, including, by the way, putting out fake articles and journals to claim that it came from a wet market and that it did not come from the lab in Wuhan. And the reason is because he had been funding it for years. He was funding the very gain-of-function research that created and then unleashed COVID-19. So he was trying to protect himself from crimes against humanity. This is now what they're trying to cover up, and they don't want him to be punished for. 617-266-6868. Annie on the South Shore. Thanks for holding, Annie, and welcome.
Jeff, this situation here is just put me right over the top. You said he was funding himself and all the elite that are around him. Jeff, you and I had a conversation a couple of years ago. I had COVID, and I had the very bad strain of COVID, and I almost died. Had I been here in this state of Massachusetts at the time, I wouldn't be talking to you on the telephone. I happened to be in Virginia at my daughter's. Everybody had COVID, but they had the different strain than what I had. And I knew that if I went to the hospital, Jeff, that I wasn't coming home. I knew that, and I fought and I fought. But in the midst of this, I called back home here, and a very dear friend of mine, who is the closest to my heart, closer than even a sister, had COVID, and she was fighting. And we both told each other to fight, fight, fight. And her last words to me were, Annie, I am fighting, but they won't give me the medication they gave you. She died 2 hours later, Jeff. So when it comes to Anthony Fauci, I don't care if he's 111. That man is a mass murderer. What about all the people who lost family members? How much time do they have? Do they even get the possibility of living to be 85 years old? No, they don't. This country that I am living in now, the United States of America, is not the country that I grew up in. Every day that goes by, Jeff, I see more and more evil spreading throughout my country. And I think about my father who fought in World War II and what they think about their country being destroyed every single year. What are we doing about it? We are agreeing with socialism. We're agreeing with let a mass murderer off. And here's the other thing, Jeff, that makes my stomach turn. My family members got the vaccine. My son is suffering because of it. My daughter-in-law is suffering because of it. People I know that are suffering because of it. But CVS is still promoting it. What do we do about that, Jeff?
Well, Annie, I don't want to pour gasoline on the fire, but not only, I can't tell you how many liberals email me. I swear, these absolute morons who are like, I've taken 6 boosters. This one, 7 boosters, 8 boosters, 9 boosters, 10 boosters. And they're like, nothing's happened to me. I'm like, yeah, but eventually, A, it will, and B, that's not the point, stupid. It's that it had very serious adverse effects for a significant minority of people. That's the point. And that with the number of people who were badly injured or killed by this vaccine, any other product, in fact, Sandy and I were just talking about that, any other product, they would have taken it off the market. There's no question they would have taken it off the market for being this unsafe. Instead, not only are they plugging it at CVS and Walgreens, okay, get your COVID shot now, but listen to this. Now they've added it to the schedule for newborn babies. So now, they give all this, what do you get, like 36 shots now is what you give a child in the first 2 years of their life? Now they want to add, in fact, they're pushing to add it, and in many states it's already there, where at a year old or 2 years old or whatever, give your kid a COVID shot, and they're trying to make it mandatory. Now, why do we need to give children a COVID shot? They've been proven to be incredibly resilient against COVID. That's number one. And number two, COVID is over. It's basically petered out. We have therapeutics. We have all sorts of things now, even if you get it. So why do we need to force people to take the jab? COVID is gone. Herd immunity's taken care of it. It's petered out as a virus. But no, they want to keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it. And I'll tell you why. Money. Money. And they're all in on this mRNA technology, which is essentially gene editing therapy. That's what it is. And it's still experimental. It's still in the early stages. But they see more money in this than in traditional vaccines, and that's why they're pushing it everywhere. Annie, this is what is corrupting Big Pharma. They are putting profits above people. And they've bought off the FDA, they've bought off the CDC, they bought off the NIH, and you can clearly see Fauci, they own him lock, stock, and barrel. He's their man. And he basically saw his job as making Big Pharma rich. And in exchange, they made him rich and his wife. 617-266-6868 is the number. Mel in Saratoga. Thanks for holding, Mel, and welcome.
Hey, yes, good morning, Jeff. How are you today? And how's Kuhner country? Hopefully everybody's well.
Good. How are you, Mel?
Not so bad, Jeff. I've got to agree with Vincent Deutschland. The Democrats are always after our Second Amendment. Yeah, I think this is probably the reason why they're trying to hold off. They're trying to take our guns from them because of what they're causing. They're going to cause political assassinations. And, gun control, to me, gun control is using both hands. It's not taking my armament away from me. And as far as Fauci goes, I look at Fauci like this. He grew up in Brooklyn. He was like the little wimp of the neighborhood. Probably had to stay upstairs while all the kids were downstairs out in the street playing stickball, handball, Gelsey. You're having fun, 4th of July, to lighting off fireworks and everything else. He's up in the house, demanded by his parents, oh, you can't go out there, you can't go out and play and have a good time. So I think more or less what he did to humanity, it was payback for the time for him being sheltered and not being able to participate and have fun like a normal kid would have, especially in New York. What they call a guy like that in New York, down in Brooklyn, they call him a Mama Lou. That's what he grew up as, a Mama Lou. Mama's boy. He couldn't do this. Oh, you can't do that, Anthony. You can't do this. You can't. Well, I think what he did to us with COVID and all the crimes that he committed against humanity was payback. Payback for what he couldn't have as a child. And that's my opinion of this. And
I got to say, that's a very interesting theory. Look, I can just tell you this from going through his diary. What you see is he's clearly a sociopath. I mean, I'm not excusing him. I'm just explaining him. He has no conscience, no sense of right and wrong, none, absolutely none. And he's obsessed with his own fame, his own celebrity, his own status, making money. The other thing that really strikes you is this whole time, he's not worried about the, COVID-19, the effects it's having on people, the death rate, the transmissibility rate, how to deal with it, how to stop it. He's obsessed with how he can cash in on it. And I'm going to read to you some of the exchanges because there's also emails now that have come out. It is chilling. I mean, really, it makes your skin crawl how little regard this man had for human life. And the other thing, Mel, it goes to your point. It was like an aphrodisiac for him. It really was. It's almost like he got his sexual jollies off of it. The power that he was able to wield, and how he could destroy, communities, societies, countries, families, people's lives. And anybody who criticized him, and I mean anybody, an article in the Wall Street Journal, an article in this health journal, it didn't matter. He would go to Merrick Garland or even go to Biden or go to Biden's chief of staff and say, how dare that guy criticize me? Can't you take care of him? You got to take care of him. Destroy him, punish him, silence him, muzzle him. He couldn't brook any criticism whatsoever. Any. And, his argument wasn't, I'm going to write a letter to the editor or I'm going to write my own article and rebut it. No. It was censor them, destroy them, ruin them, cancel them, ban them. You look at this and you're like, you never, ever should invest power in a bureaucrat. Because that's how you get a disaster like COVID-19. And the other thing, Mel, and people forget this, and this is how the media sold us on him. He's a bureaucrat. By the way, the other thing that's striking is he's a very mediocre man. He's not smart, not at all. He's not intelligent, not at all. You can see he's a mediocre, faceless bureaucrat. He's never done any science. He's not a scientist. He's never practiced any medicine. None. Literally none. He gets his medical degree, and in 1968, and he goes straight into the federal government. All this guy was a bureaucrat his entire life. That's it. That's it. And we gave him the keys to the kingdom? I mean, insane. Honestly, insane. And so when you read the diary, he's gushing over Kim Kardashian. I met her. Oh my God, she's a fan of mine. Oh, I'm such a big fan of hers. Barbara Streisand, he's like a little girl. Like, my Ava now is 13. And so there's, certain bands or whatever, singers, and, how they're 13 years old, how they are at 13, and she's like gushing over them. That's him. But this is a 79-year-old man. And he's like, oh, I'm on regular contact with Barbara Streisand. Oh, I love her. And I even told her how to use Alexa, and we're on the phone, and we're besties. And a profile piece on me. Oh, Style magazine. I'm on the cover of it now. And my Hollywood friend said, no, you got to wear this $1,000 Ray-Ban sunglasses. You're going to look so cool, Tony. Okay. And he's going on about, New York Times, great puff piece. Washington Post, big profile piece. I'm the most popular man in America. I'm one of the hottest celebrities in the world. This is so cool. Really cool. And you're looking at this and people are dying. People are in the hospital. They can't see their grandparents because of your protocols. They can't see their parents. People are dying all by themselves. You know how many people have told me, Jeff, I couldn't say bye to my grandma, couldn't say bye to my granddad, couldn't say bye to my mom and my dad? Hospitals wouldn't let me, Fauci's rules. People aren't getting ivermectin. People aren't getting hydroxychloroquine. They're literally dying. Or they're putting people on remdesivir and then putting them on these ventilators that Fauci's ordering, and suddenly they're fine, and then all of a sudden they're dead. And all this guy's going on about is, the Spice Girls and Kim Kardashian. It's just one after another. And I told him I'm a big fan of her, or I told him I'm a big fan of him. I told her I'm a big fan of her. And they're calling me and they're saying they're a big fan of me, and I'm texting them, and this is incredible. And now the media is telling us, okay, maybe he should just say he's sorry. And then, but that'll keep him, have him say he's sorry, and then he won't go to jail. Are you kidding me? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, very quickly, because I want to go right back to the blazing phone lines. But Fauci's got other problems now. It's not just that he's been held in contempt of Congress, and either Jeanine Pirro or Todd Blanche may actually pull the proverbial trigger, indict him, charge him, and prosecute him. But now he's got state attorneys general after him. 4 states now are going after Fauci. 3 in particular, Florida, West Virginia, and Louisiana, are now launching massive investigations for his self-dealing and his self-promotion during the entire pandemic, that he made out like a bandit while abusing his position, not caring about public health, and doing everything he could to get himself awards, money, book deals, sitting on commissions, professorships. There was nothing this guy wouldn't do to make himself richer and richer and richer. And just to give you an example, okay, of how greedy, and I mean greedy, this guy was. So people are dying. This is now 2020 going into 2021. He's now under Biden. And he tells his chief of staff and his personal assistant to start making applications for awards for quote-unquote leadership during the pandemic. And one of them was a $1 million award, a prize, the Dan David Prize, affiliated with Tel Aviv University in Israel. And that's for his leadership during the pandemic. And so he had his, now remember, these are federal employees being paid by you and me, taxpayer dollars.
So they're on the federal tax, dollar dime, on our dime, on our time. And they're supposed to be working on dealing and countering and responding to COVID-19. But most of their time, as you see in the emails and in the diary, is they're making application after application so that Fauci can keep getting richer and richer and richer. And his wife as well. They were also making applications for his wife. So they were both cashing in. All right. Now, they lobby Tel Aviv University so hard that they say, okay. And then, by the way, Fauci promises all kinds of grants to these universities. It was pay to play. So if you want, say, a nice $50 million or $100 million grant, that's our money, to do quote unquote research for infectious diseases, I think you want him to win the Dan David Prize, right? Right? He gets the $1 million prize. Wink, wink. And of course you get your $50 million grant. See, that's how it works. Quote, congratulations, you're rich. Fauci's personal assistant, Patricia Conrad. That's what she wrote to him in April 2021 in an email after she was notified that Fauci was awarded the Dan David Prize. On that email chain was his chief of staff, Greg Folkers. This is his response. I'm not kidding. Quote, I want my 15%. I want my cut. That's Fauci's chief of staff, Greg Folkers. And on and on. And by the way, just so that you know, Fauci then has an email later acknowledging he got the $1 million, saying it was deposited directly into his bank account. Now, by the way, email after email, application after application, he got book deals. He got awards. He got cash prizes. He got board positions, which pays. These board positions, you put them on a board, $500,000, $1 million, $600,000. The wife, $1 million, $800,000. She sat on boards everywhere. Private foundation partnerships, all kinds of other professional financial opportunities, professorships, you name it. All they did was make money. Millions and millions, in fact, tens of millions, both he and the wife. So Florida's attorney general now says they want every document, every communication on his self-dealing. And also they say on vaccine efficacy, the boosters, potential adverse effects, consequences, including myocarditis. And by the way, they want his communications with vaccine manufacturers. And what they're all saying, whether it's Louisiana, West Virginia, Florida, and now it looks like Alabama's going to jump in, is they're saying he ran a pay-to-play operation. He knew that the vaccine was ineffective. He didn't care. He knew the vaccine was killing people. He didn't care. As I said, he got 6 boosters, this idiot. He got COVID 3 times. Once he got a pulmonary embolism. Basically, it attacked his lung, damaged his lung tissue. It was so serious, they had to send him to an elite private clinic to get treatment, and then they covered it up. And this is what he was telling us to take. And all the while, he's telling the vaccine manufacturers, don't worry, you're all going to make a ton of cash. We'll make this. We're going to push that vaccine mandate. We're going to force every American, including a 6-month-old baby, to take it. And the whole time, they did not have proper clinical trials and test studies to see if this damn thing was safe. So they're going to get him. I'm telling you, they're going to get him. And at a bare minimum, if this guy can avoid getting jail time, let me tell you what's going to happen. All of his ill-gotten gains, all of his illicit, dirty, corrupt money that he amassed, it's going to be drained dry because he's going to have to pay his $3,000 an hour lawyers to defend him, not just in court in Washington, D.C., but in Florida, in Alabama, in West Virginia, in Louisiana, and frankly, I hope every single red state does the exact same thing. In 25, 26, 30 red states, I would bleed this guy white. His fortune was illegitimate. It was corrupt. It's blood money. Sue him to Palookaville and let him lose it all. Because honestly, he deserves to lose it all. 617-266-6868. You see the chief of staff? You know, where's my 15%? That guy is supposed to be working on public health policy. He's supposed to be helping people survive and be in hospitals. And instead, they're sending out application after application to line his pockets, and I got to get my cut. What are you guys, public health scientists or freaking gangsters? Andy in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you this morning?
Good, good. How are you, Andy?
I'm doing okay, but I often wonder if you have some kind of a gig going with Big Pharma. Do you know why I say that?
Why?
I got to double up on my blood pressure medicine when I listen to you. I love you so much in a non-sexual way, Jeff. I'm going to tell you, you are a modern-day Paul Harvey.
Oh,
do you remember what
you.
Paul Harvey used to say at the end of his "Now for the real story"?
Yeah, now you know the rest of the story.
Now you know the rest of the story, okay? Because that's what you tell. You probably raise a lot of people's blood pressure, and they have to double up on their medication often, like I do. But you make the people aware of what's going on in this country.
Thank you.
And
Thank
as far as Fauci's concerned, just do it. This guy caused so much damage to this country, destroyed so many people's lives, so many businesses went under. There's never been such an evil man, and he should pay the price. And at that,
do you think he will? Let me ask you this: do you think he will? That's the key question now. I mean, they have him. I'm telling you, they've got the emails, they've even got the text messages, they've got the diary, they've got him. I mean, they've got him, as I like to say, 6 ways to Sunday. They got him. You know, and so the only question now is, will Janine Pirro or Todd Blanche make the decision to prosecute? I think that's the only question now. You know, it's like a gangster. We've got the gangster. We've got everything. We've got witnesses. We've got the bank receipts. We've got the pictures, the video surveillance. We've got him committing crime after crime after crime. Like, we've got him. The only question now is, do we have the will to charge to charge, prosecute, arrest, obviously, and convict? And that to me is a $64,000 question. Andy, what say you?
hang him in Times Square New Year's, Jeff.
I'm praying. I got my fingers crossed, and we'll see what happens. I'll tell you this. If Janine Pirro punts on this, I want her out. I want her out. If Todd Blanche punts on this, I don't want him as the next Attorney General. And don't get me wrong, I like Todd Blanche. I do. I want him to be confirmed as the next, full-time permanent Attorney General. But to me, this is a litmus test. You want to drain the swamp? This is one of the biggest swamp creatures you can bag. And they've got the goods. Now I know if you're for real or not. Anyway, just my opinion. Agree, disagree. 617-266-6868. 6868. Okay, 8 o'clock. You know what that means? Friday. Kuhner's Call Log, Caller of the Week. Take it away, Mike.
It's time for Kuhner's Call Log, where we showcase our favorite caller from the week.
I can hear you. Can you hear me? Thanks for holding, Mike.
First of all, I think we're giving the socialist group that kind of seems like they're running wild right now, taking over. I think we're giving them a little bit too much credit. I think what's really going to happen is I think Donald Trump, this administration, I think they're setting up and they're putting things in place right now. I think naturally all the food prices in the market's going to come down. Gas is going to come down. I'm talking way down, like we've never seen before. And I think the socialists, I think they're smart. They're not stupid people. They're smart. I think they're aware of it. I think the Trump administration is really going to be responsible for the prices coming down, but they're going to try to take the credit for it. I mean, there's no possible way that they're going to shut down Stop and Shop, Market Basket. It's not even logical to think that they could do something like that. In other words, like you mentioned something about militarizing the supermarkets and all the control of all the goods and stuff. When push comes to shove, whose side is the military really going to be on if that ever came to that? You know what I mean? Like, I think we're just giving them a little bit too much credit. People are getting a little bit too excited because, the prices haven't come down yet. But I really do think that Trump's setting up a system where America's going to be thriving big time.
And next week, it could be you on Kuhner's Call Log.
Please, don't be a stranger. Call again. Best audience in the business. I know I say it every week, but it's true. Really the best audience in the business. And by the way, we also have Kuhner's Talk Back Tit for Tat, which we have every Monday, 9:50. It's almost becoming as popular now as Caller of the Week. And so if you want to get yourself heard, and by the way, you can mention me or make a comment about me, good or bad, negative, positive, or Sandy or Mike. What you do is you download the iHeartRadio app. It's the best way really to listen to the show. And then you click on the right-hand corner. There it is. And just let her rip. Let her rip. Say what you want to say. And we are going to play the best ones every Monday at 9:50 a.m., last segment of the show. Again, I want to thank the callers because you take this show to a completely different level every single day. 617-266-6868. Contempt of Congress has now been issued against Fauci. It was an 8-5 vote along party lines on the committee, the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Fetterman voted with the Democrats, so he didn't want to hold Fauci in contempt. He's always, by the way, forget what he says. He'll go on Fox and take a couple of shots at the socialists in his party. But he always votes party line. And he did it again to coddle and protect Fauci. But it didn't matter. 8 Republicans voted for a criminal referral. It is now, as I speak to you, on the desk of Todd Blanche and the desk of Jeanine Pirro, the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. They now have all the grounds to arrest him, prosecute him, and jail him. Should they and will they? 617-266-6868 is the number. Maggie in Amesbury. Thanks for holding, Maggie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just want to say, first of all, that over 90% of the time, I fully support Trump. I voted for him 3 times. I vote for him again. But the one thing I can never understand is why did he support Fauci? I mean, I questioned it from the get-go. I don't know if it was because he didn't understand medicine. It's probably maybe his weakest subject. I don't know. But I keep wondering, he's so smart about other people. Why did he put his support behind Fauci? I can't understand that. Am I missing something?
No, you're not missing anything. It was the biggest mistake of his second term. Sorry, of his first term. It was the biggest mistake of his first term. And he's passed away now. But there was a brilliant man. His name was Professor or Dr. Angelo Codevilla, Codevilla, originally from Italy, a naturalized American, a brilliant man, a political thinker, a political philosopher. He wrote a book that immensely influenced Rush Limbaugh. I read it as well. I think it's one of the greatest books of the last 25 years. And he was the one that laid out, the term the ruling class. And it's a short book, by the way. It's not a very thick book. It's a very readable book. But he changed the way I look at the world, the way Rush looked at the world, the way so many conservatives look at the world. And he was a friend of mine. He admired my work at the Washington Times, my columns. Of course, I admired his work. And he emailed me. This was when, at the height of the pandemic, Codevilla was still alive. And he said, Trump has just made the biggest mistake. And he cited Machiavelli. He was a big admirer of Italian political theorists. He was Italian himself. But he studied Machiavelli. That was the one guy he knew like the back of his hand. And he said, the one thing a statesman never does is you never cede your destiny to another individual. And he said, Trump, when the media kept pressing him, will you, quote, follow the science on COVID? Will you only listen to Fauci's recommendations and not overrule Fauci? Because if you overrule Fauci, this was the narrative, you're overruling, quote, science. He was science. He was the number one public health expert, allegedly, in America. So anything anyone else did was political. It was unscientific, anti-scientific. But what Fauci advocated was, quote, science. And Trump, backed into a corner, made the biggest mistake of his first term. He said, I won't overrule him. And so then they had him. Fauci said, you got to lock down the economy. It's science. He locked it down. You've got to close all the schools. It's the science. Okay, close the schools. Social distancing, 6 feet. Okay, implement it. It's the science. No, the COVID was not an attack from China. It was not a gain-function research funded by Fauci and then released to kill people around the world and here in America. It was a wet market. Okay, I have my doubts, but okay, if Fauci says it, okay. So they destroyed the economy, and then this was the key. This was the key. They then changed the way we govern ourselves to this day. Fauci said you have to have universal mail-in balloting. It's such a deadly pandemic. With 6 feet social distancing, people can't vote in in-person voting. So you have to use mail-in ballots. And that's how they stole the election. And they've changed now the very relationship of government to citizen. Ever since then, we've never truly recovered. And that's why the diary is so explosive. That's why he won't answer questions. Because there was no science to anything that he said in public. The 6 feet social distancing, he admits it, made up. Masks, ineffective, he admits it. The vaccine, ineffective and causes adverse effects, he admits it. That the lab leak, that the source of COVID came from the Wuhan lab, he admits it. That they were funding it for years, he admits it. That the lockdowns are a disaster and would do nothing to stop COVID, except crater the economy, he admits it. That the school closures were an absolute freaking disaster and would do nothing to protect kids from COVID, who didn't need protection because they had natural strong immunity, he admits it. So everything he advocated was a lie. It wasn't science. It was all politics to destroy the country, to destroy the Trump's presidency, and to empower the Chinese Communist Party. So long story short, Maggie, he allowed the media, the Democrats, the Republican establishment, because they were all behind Fauci, and communist China to corner him and say, okay, I won't say anything against Fauci. Whatever he says, he put him on that task force, and Mike Pence said, whatever Fauci says is law. And by doing that, that's how they beat him in his first term. It was the biggest mistake Trump ever made, but it was the biggest mistake of his first term. Maggie, does that answer your question, or?
No, yes, it does, Jeff, and I agree. But I also have to add that.
Mike, you got to be kidding me, man. You can't. Okay, let's go right back to Maggie in Amesbury. Maggie was making the point, why did Trump essentially adhere or follow everything Fauci was advising? Because essentially the media, the political class boxed him in, saying he was the science, and if you went against Fauci, you were against science itself, and you wanted people to die under COVID-19. So they framed the narrative, and they essentially cornered President Trump. And as Trump later admitted, it was the biggest mistake of his first term. Okay, let's go right back to Maggie in Amesbury. Maggie, I know you wanted to say something additional. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Jeff. I will give you an illustration of what I was trying to say about the medical establishment not speaking up. One of my close friends, early on, he broke from Fauci during the whole COVID, when Fauci was rolling things out, because he knew he was wrong. He disagreed with him on many levels. But my friend's very liberal. To this day, he didn't speak up then, and he's not speaking up now. And I have to blame those scientists just as much as Trump, because Trump didn't know. I'm not excusing him, but he didn't know the details that scientists, doctors, nurses like myself knew.
Well, you're completely right. I'll tell you what I found. I'm going back now in time, but I remember when Trump came down with COVID, and it was a huge thing, and he was rushed to Walter Reed Hospital, and he said the quiet part out loud. He was often right. He would come out and say, I don't think the masks are going to work. It doesn't make sense to me. And then they all pounced on him. Or he came out and said, he kept railing against the lockdowns. And he was like, well, they told me 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That was the line that Fauci used and all of his allies. And he goes, it's not 2 weeks anymore. It's 2 months. It's 3 months. And I don't see it stopping or halting COVID-19. He goes, it's spreading whether we locked it down or didn't lock it down. All it's doing now is massive economic damage, and they pounced all over him. Well, this one was when he came out and said, oh, no, I was using ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, and oh my God, I felt so much better within a couple of hours. And I'll never forget this. Maggie, you can look it up. It was day after day, night after night. Oh, you would think he said, let's rape children. It was wall to wall. I don't care if it was CNN, MS Now, the big networks, the New York Times, Washington Post, Boston Globe, local media, social media. They were losing their minds. This is horse paste. This is horse dewormer. This is, how dare he say this? This is not science. He's going to get people killed. On and on and on. How could you give such blatant misinformation, disinformation? Somebody needs to remove him from office. And it turned out ivermectin was gold. Hydroxychloroquine, HCQ, gold. Studies now, over 100 studies, 70, 80% effective against the COVID-19 virus. The only people it really doesn't help are the elderly with multiple comorbidities. Then almost nothing can help you at that point with COVID-19. But outside of that, I took it. I'm telling you, it worked. Everybody I knew took it. It worked. That or HCQ, it worked. So Trump blurted it out, and he would say, it seems to me like it's working. And then he's like, people are telling me it's working. And they crucified the guy. So that, I'll never forget that. It was hysteria. It was panic porn to a degree I've never seen before. And they wanted him out, and they were intent on spreading as much fear and as much panic as possible. And the whole time they were lying, and they knew they were lying. And I don't think really the country's ever recovered. I can just tell you, I don't trust my doctors like I used to. I don't trust the medical establishment. I'm going to talk about it later in the show, but let me just mention it now. The FDA reversed itself. Listen to this, Maggie. The FDA, just a couple months ago, rejected a flu vaccine from Moderna, which is based completely on mRNA technology. It's an mRNA flu vaccine. And 3 months ago, they said, this is horrible. You're crazy. They said the clinical trials are not up to standards. You're gaming and rigging the testing process. There's no way in hell we're going to allow you to sell this on the open market. 3 months later, this was just, couple days ago. They did a complete 180, and now for the 2026-2027 flu season, you can get now a Moderna mRNA flu shot. I'm telling you, the FDA has no business allowing this to be sold on the open market or being given to Americans or being pushed or promoted or even allowed in pharmacies. And the only reason why? The money. The money. That's all it is. It's the money. So now they're so aggressive with their mRNA technology, they want it in the flu shot. And by the way, the testing that they did do, you can look it up. Don't take my word for it. Heavy side effects, adverse events, myocarditis, blood clots, some people dying from heart attacks. They even admit it. And Moderna, this is the Moderna flu vaccine, the mRNA. And the FDA still approved it. So I don't trust Big Pharma, and I don't trust the medical establishment as far as you can throw them. Let's put it this way. This is not your parents' FDA. It's all money now. You know the expression, money talks, BS walks? It's all money. Maggie, final word to you. Did we lose Maggie? Okay, this is an email that I got on my personal phone from a good friend of mine. He's a staunch supporter of Kuhner Country, a long-time listener, and a regular texter as well. And this is what he sent me. And I got to say, he's absolutely correct. He reminded me of something, and it's 1,000% correct. This is from Kevin. Jeff, in one text, I want to cite something and then remind you of something. During the Fauci hearing in front of Rand Paul's committee, there was one thing that happened that I found so profound, and it was when Senator Ron Johnson was railing against Fauci's downplaying of HCQ, hydroxychloroquine, and ivermectin, while Johnson held a stack of papers 3 inches thick of all the studies proving both medications' effectiveness. If you'll remember, back in 2020, at the height of the pandemic, and I do, I sent you a link to the NIH's own website that contained all the hundreds of official clinical trials showing the effectiveness of HCQ and ivermectin. And you opened the link and reported on it live on air. And all the while, Fauci was at the time denying it. Those studies that you reported on that day were the very papers that Senator Ron Johnson was holding up at the hearing. Bingo. Bingo. In fact, I will never forget that, because Kevin was the one who alerted me, and he said, Jeff, Kuhner, you got to look at this. The National Institute of Health on their own website they admit that they've done over 100 clinical trials regarding ivermectin and HCQ and how effective it is against COVID-19. You got to look at this, man. You want to talk about the proverbial smoking gun? Here it is. So I went, and I'm like, you're slapping yourself in the face. I'm living in a twilight zone. They're undercutting the case for the vaccine. And Fauci's lying about HCQ and ivermectin. And here they are defaming Trump, slandering Trump, villainizing Trump for stating the basic obvious truth. They gave me ivermectin. It works. HCQ. It works. And so what I did, I went on the air and I just went study by study, trial by trial, giving all of you the percentages, and they were very high, of how effective ivermectin and HCQ were against COVID-19. I was censored. My show was not allowed to be put on YouTube. Bill in Sudbury, I'll never forget this, demanded that I be taken off the air, that I lose my job, lose my career, that I be officially canceled, censored, because I was going against the quote-unquote science. And who was the quote-unquote science? That pathological liar, schemer, and grifter, Chicken Little, Dr. Fifth, Fauci. And it was that climate of intolerance, that climate of hysteria, that climate of fear-mongering that gripped so much of the country. Truth was verboten. Real science, real evidence, real facts, verboten, forbidden. Because everything depended upon the opinion and edict of one man. A god. Chicken Little. 617-266-6868 is the number. So do I think he should go to jail? You better believe it. Do I think he should be tried for crimes against humanity? You better believe it. And by the way, in private, Fauci admitted how effective ivermectin is and how effective HCQ is. And I remember at the time, I'm like, how did this suddenly become horse paste or horse dewormer? It's a Nobel Prize winning medication. It's been around for 60 years. We have a huge, it's safe, it's extremely effective, hardly any side effects that people know of, and if they are some side effects, very minor. So here you have a proven medication that we know works and that we know is safe. And yet we're not going to prescribe it? We're not going to tell Americans about it? And the answer was, why? Because it's cheap. It's pennies on a pill. The mRNA jab, that's big money. That's big money. 617-266-6868. That's when I knew that the health establishment was not about putting people first or our public health. It was about how much money they can stuff into their pockets. And how many people died or were injured or maimed, they didn't give a damn. And the scariest thing of all was the blind fanaticism of people like Bill in Sudbury and Chris in Gloucester. How it just, if the media, if CNN parroted it, and if Fauci parroted it, then with this fanatical zeal, you know, like a Nazi shock troop or a communist shock troop, and they call, get him off the air, he's going to get people killed. Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. 617-266-6868. Jeffrey in Boston. Thanks for holding, Jeffrey, and welcome.
Jeff, how are you? Excellent show, as always. And
Thank you.
Spot
Thank you,
on.
Jeffrey.
Incredible. When I saw Fauci and his wife yesterday, I can't say what I want to on the air, but I was infuriated beyond explanation. What
You
really,
mean the middle finger? When the wife gave the
Yes.
media and the whole country the middle finger?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. So what is also infuriating, Jeff, is that with all of the facts out, with all of the evidence, with all of the proof, every single member of Congress should be 100% with indicting Fauci. It is sick. Half of Congress reveres this evil, soulless man, and I'll never, ever understand it. But I just pray there are high-powered attorneys that will bring a class action lawsuit against every single company who made their employees become vaccinated. They put people's lives in risk solely for false profit and false promises. You posed a very poignant question.
Jeffrey, can you do me a favor? By the way, you're on a roll. Yeah, you're really on a roll, Jeffrey. Hang on. Can you just hang on? I'm up against it. I don't want to rush you. I'm going to come right back. I agree with you, not 1,000%, 1,000,000%. Okay, I want to go right back to Jeffrey in Boston. He is on a roll. But just before I do, the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. And Kuhner Country, I really would like as many of you to respond to this poll as possible, because I think it really gets to the heart of the matter regarding Fauci, COVID, and everything that we've had to endure and suffer really over the last 5, 6 years, ever since they unleashed that pandemic on us. Who or what did more damage to the country, to the United States? Dr. Fauci, Dr. Fifth, or COVID? Ultimately, who or what did more damage to the United States? Chicken Little, okay, Dr. Fauci, or the actual virus, COVID-19? A, Fauci, B, COVID. To me, I'm an A all the way. Personally, forget COVID. We could have handled COVID, ivermectin, HCQ, a good rigorous testing program, protect especially the more vulnerable, the elderly, and we could have survived, not just survived, but we could have easily weathered COVID-19 with a minimal loss of life. To me, it was clear. It was Fauci that made everything so utterly destructive. but that's me. I want to hear from you. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, KUHN as in National ER. You can also vote via X, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, KUHN as in National ER. Jeffrey, please pick up where you left off.
Yes. So, as you clearly stated, I've lost a lot of faith in the medical field as well. I've never taken a flu shot. I never will. I will not take a shingle shot. After the COVID pandemic, I really don't know who to really trust. But you brought up a poignant fact. If the DOJ, if they should bring a criminal indictment, what my concern is, if the grand jury is convened in Washington, which is 98% leftist lunatic, out of spite, I believe that they will never indict Fauci there. Our only possible hope would be criminal charges in the red states. But I'll make you this promise, Jeff, on my soul. If Dr. Fauci is indicted and tried and convicted, if he serves time, I'm going to call back in and I'm going to mail you and also your staff a gift certificate to the best steakhouse you guys want. Your show's incredible. It's factual based. I learned more in 4 hours than a year's worth of watching any news program. Thank you for everything you and also your staff always do.
Thank you, Jeffrey. And please, there's no need to send me anything. Just your support is enough for me. But thank you, Jeffrey. Very kind words, and I really appreciate it. And God bless you. 617-266-6868. Okay, this is now from Josh Hawley on X. Senator Josh Hawley. Oh, I have to say, really cut up Fauci. Undressed him at that hearing 2 weeks ago now, where Fauci kept pleading the fifth. And this is now what Hawley has come out on X. And I agree with him. I have to say, I completely agree with him. This is what Hawley has written. Fauci is still getting his government pension, even after raking in millions and millions and millions in illegal cash prizes. He's a scam artist, and he needs to be put behind bars. Amen. You can look this up because it's so unbelievable. You're going to say, Jeff, you've got to be exaggerating for effect, to make your point. No, I'm telling you, Fauci's pension is nearly $500,000. He has the biggest, wealthiest pension of any federal employee in the federal government, including the President of the United States. I think he beats the president by maybe $10,000 or $20,000. I'm not saying it's, hundreds of thousands more, but the point is, this guy has the biggest freaking pension of any employee in the government, including the freaking president. You want to talk about slap, 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 slap in the face, and another slap, and another slap. Now, look, I can only speak from experience. I got the flu shot once. This was maybe 10 years ago. And guess what? I came down with the flu. So I stopped taking the flu shot. And it was, I'm not sure, was it Sandy? Anyway, somebody was the one who said to me, no, Jeff, when you take a flu shot, that's really last year's flu. They're just going off of last year's strain of the flu. I'm like, really? Yeah. So that's why it's not really that effective. It may be for some, but generally that's why it's not, not that effective. So ever since then, I said, no, forget it. I'm not taking a flu shot. And ever since I didn't take a flu shot, I don't want to curse myself, knock on wood, I've not gotten the flu. Now, so I don't take a flu shot. A, because I don't think it works. And B, I don't want to keep putting stuff in my body I don't need to. Now, I'll tell you what I definitely will not do over my dead body is take what they've just approved now, the FDA, criminally, as far as I'm concerned, the Moderna mRNA flu shot or flu vaccine. I'm not putting any of that mRNA, which is really gene editing therapy. That's what it is. And if you want, I can read to you. I have the stories on Moderna's flu vaccine, the mRNA, where Moderna admits that there were side effects in these clinical trials. They admit it. Very similar to the jab, to the COVID jab. That there were instances of blood clots, there were instances of myocarditis, and that apparently a couple of people in the clinical trial died. And the only way they were able to get it approved was to have their so-called mRNA flu vaccine compete against another vaccine that was the weakest and the least effective of all possible vaccines, flu vaccines you can take. And that's how they kind of were able to justify it for the FDA and get it across the finish line. And so I'm reading this and I'm saying, we haven't learned enough. We haven't suffered enough from the mRNA COVID jab. Now you want to go down the route, down the road of giving this flu mRNA vaccine. And you're admitting that the clinical trials, in fact, 3 months ago, the FDA openly said that the clinical trials were so weak, in some cases so non-existent, they said, we're rejecting your application to get FDA approval out of hand. Like, are you serious? No, the answer is no. No way are we going to put this out on the market. And now 3 months later, and I'm assuming after a lot of lobbying and a lot of money changing hands, because nothing else has really changed, now at your local CVS or Walgreens, you can have the option of taking the Moderna mRNA flu vaccine. I am not going to take it. I will never take it. I don't recommend that you take it. That's up to you. You want to take a flu vaccine? That's up to you. But I wouldn't take the Moderna mRNA. And just for your information, if you do get the flu vaccine, or you want one, please, I'm urging you, say, what kind of flu vaccine is it? Is it the traditional flu vaccine? Or is it this Moderna mRNA flu vaccine? And if they say it's the Moderna, give me another one. I don't care, any other one. But don't give me that one. Because I don't want to wake up and suddenly, my heart is twice as large. Or, my left leg is paralyzed and I can't move. And why? And they find a 3-foot blood clot. That they would allow this kind of mRNA technology to run wild and continue to experiment on us. And if you want, I'll read to you straight from Moderna's own admission. They say, we're going to collect, in other words, what's the effect this has on people? Well, once we start using it on the market, we're going to collect data. And I remember I read it, I'm like, what? Hold on. We're the guinea pigs? You're going to get this at your CVS or Walgreens or whatever. And then, we'll just monitor and track and, oh, geez, that one just dropped dead. Okay, well, I guess it does lead to brain tumors. A stroke, another one, another heart attack. Okay, some people are getting strokes. Okay. Hold on, you can't have children anymore? Suddenly you took this and your fertility, your menstrual cycle is all, out of whack and, you can't have babies anymore? Okay, well, I guess it does impact fertility. Let's write that down. And this is the Food and Drug Administration. I'm reading this in my man cave as I do my show prep, and I'm telling you, I'm sipping my Diet Coke, and I'm reading, and I'm shaking my head, and I'll tell you exactly what sometimes I speak to myself as I read. And I said, boy, I used to revere the FDA. I used to really admire the FDA. I'm giving you verbatim what I said last night to myself. I said, they used to be the gold standard. Like, I remember they would reject and reject and reject and reject. And I remember getting approval from the FDA. Ay, ay, ay. It was like getting an A from your professor. It was, 10 years, 20 years of study after study and trial after trial. And when they said yes, it was safe. I remember the criticism for 30 years. The FDA, they're too tough. Really, the standards are, come on. We're just not getting life-saving medication out because the FDA, these old fuddy-duddies, it's, no side effects or very few side effects. And, no one's going to die from it. And it's got to be almost 100% effective. And, they were like, geez, they want the moon. Sort of like when I was growing up to get an A from one of my professors. It was like maybe one in the whole class got an A. Now everybody gets an A. But it's like, geez, to get an A from this guy, I got to break my back. I'm telling you, that used to be the FDA. The regulators, the reviewers were in charge. Now, the moneymakers, Big Pharma, they're in charge. 617, and we're the clinical trial. We're the laboratory rats. Charlotte in Boston. Mike? It might be. Charlotte, please do me a favor. If you can get off speaker, please get off speaker.
As far as who did more damage to the country, the media. The media is complicit in creating and encouraging Fauci, a fame and fortune-seeking sociopath. The media did this. If you want to see the power of the media, watch the movie A Face in the Crowd. Many similarities. I don't know if you've ever seen it.
No, I've never seen it, but I agree with you. The media is the enemy of the people. There's just no question. And I'll let you finish your point, Charlotte, I promise. But the way they lie about everything, they lied about Russia collusion. They lied about Hunter Biden's laptop. They lied about the stolen election of 2020. They lied about Fauci. They lied about COVID. They lied about the lockdowns. They lied about the vaccine, the so-called jab. What don't they lie about? Really, they lie about everything. I don't know what they don't. I look around and I say it's just nonstop propaganda, lie after lie after lie. And I don't even mean, an easy lie to disprove. An obvious lie to disprove. It's not even close. And all of these journalists are either on the take from the CCP, or when you look at the diary, Charlotte, as someone who was a journalist and an editor, I can't tell you how immoral and unethical and unprofessional. You're supposed to be covering Fauci. He's the leading public health expert in response to the pandemic, the number one infectious disease expert. He's the, quote, COVID czar. So you have to cover him. You have to be skeptical. You have to be independent. And Jake Tapper and Chuck Todd, then on Meet the Press, now he's been fired, but then on Meet the Press, and they're eating with the guy. They're breaking bread. They're having steaks. They're drinking wine. They're hanging out at each other's homes. They're partying with each other. And they still have jobs? And this is what the media does? It's not media, it's propaganda. They're democratic activists with posing as journalists. And their job is not to tell the truth. Their job is to lie. And the more they lie and the better they lie, the more money they make. And I got to tell you, and Charlotte, they made a ton of money during COVID. A ton of money. The journalists did. Big Pharma was paying Anderson Cooper over $10 million a year for his show. And CNN never disclosed it. I think his salary was like $15 million. I mean, don't quote me, but it was in that ballpark. Big Pharma literally was cutting the checks. Big Pharma paid for most of his salary. Not CNN. Big Pharma. And what's Anderson Cooper doing every night? Jab, 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 jab. Vaccine, vaccine. COVID with the little, remember the chyron they had? And the box on the side? How many deaths? Just to, spread more panic porn. And it turned out you committed suicide, but you had COVID. That was a COVID death. You die in a car accident. Oh, no, if you had COVID, that's a COVID death. You drop dead of leukemia or whatever, a heart attack. Oh, but if you had COVID, that's a COVID death. So they kept padding the numbers and padding the numbers just to spread more fear. And all the while, take the jab, take the jab. Oh, and censor Jeff Kuhner or anybody who questioned their lies. You call that a media? I call that a whore. Anyway, Charlotte, you're on a roll. Please keep going.
We don't have time now, and I want to do it privately, but the flu vaccine just about almost killed one of my relatives, and I can't do it on, but I mean, in a coma for 17 days from a flu vaccine, okay? And that was a year and a half ago. So no one in my family will ever take any vaccines of any type, anywhere, anyhow. But the media, watch that movie, A Face in the Crowd.
Well, Charlotte, I'm just curious, when you go to the pharmacy, I don't care, CVS, Walgreens, wherever, do they keep pushing the flu vaccine on you? Because they do that to me. I cannot pick up a medication without them asking me, would you like the flu shot? I'm like, how many times do I have to say no? I mean, really, I keep telling you no. The answer is no. But they don't stop. Do they do the same thing to you, Charlotte? I'm just curious.
Yes, my doctor, the pharmacy, the shingles vaccine. Every time I talk to my doctor or the assistant to my doctor, it's, you need the shingles vaccine. Well, I'm not taking the shingles vaccine. I'm not taking any vaccines. And I haven't taken a flu shot in I can't tell you how many years. And I'm older than 80 years, okay? And I haven't taken a flu shot in over 5 years. I got a few colds, and that was it. Haven't had any bad, flu issues. But this is all the money. So they want to, and the vaccines, they want to put in us that damage that we're paying for, the government, which is taxpayers, so that you have to buy treatment from the same pharmaceutical company that put the damage in you. Okay?
That's the scam. You're completely right. That's the scam. And by the way, I can only piggyback off of what you're saying, Charlotte. And by the way, really good call. I see my doctor. You want the flu shot? No. The nurse who sees me, you want the flu shot? No. Like, I don't know how many ways, how many times I can say no. Like, why don't you just put, really, like, just put a gun, stick it in my mouth and say, take the damn flu shot. Like, you're trying to shame me into taking the flu shot. I don't want to. And by the way, you're right. They pushed the shingles shot on me all the time. And I had shingles. It was really painful. I'm like, no, I'm good. Well, you had it. Well, okay. Well, you may get it again. Okay. I mean, I really hated having it, but I didn't die. I survived. I'll be fine. But it's really painful. I know. I suffered. I had shingles. But no, I'm good. If I don't need to take it, I won't take it. And what I mean by need is, save my life. So it's okay. If I get the flu, I get the flu. It's okay. I mean, I don't like to get the flu, but it's okay. I've had the flu before. Okay. Well, you don't feel good. I feel like garbage. But, I survive. It's just, look, if I've got comorbidities and I'm very old and with a lot of health conditions, yeah, a cold can kill you, pneumonia, a flu, yes. George in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, George, and welcome.
Hey, Jeff. I can't think of a better topic for you to. You could do this topic every day, because until our country recognizes the mistakes made from the COVID fiasco, our country is just going to drift and drift towards socialism, and that's our only counter to it. And in terms of the Fauci issue, you know, I when I called and I spoke to Mike, I mean, our public officials, a good model for a character personality in terms of how to run and operate their position would be like a George C. Marshall. And the reason I bring him up was, from what I've read on him, is that he wanted nothing to do with FDR. He just basically went to work, did his job, and went home. And which is the anti-celebrity of what we're dealing with. And until we make an example of someone like Fauci, and where there's actually consequences for the way he acted, unfortunately, our country's just going to continue to drift in this direction. And, you know, it's scary. I mean, like everybody, I have players in the game right now, and I'm concerned for what our country will become, you know. And I think that, like I said, you should not. This topic should be like once or twice a week minimum, where until we acknowledge it. And I don't know how that's accomplished. And I'm thrilled that Rand Paul's, you know, doing what he's doing, but we just can't move on until this is resolved.
I agree. No, I don't want to move on. I don't think we should move on. I so agree with you. What he did was unforgivable. And the reason why his crimes have to be exposed completely is really for two reasons. One, so that they can never, ever happen again. But number two, because they changed the country. Whether we like to admit it or not, they changed the country. We shredded the Constitution. We violated the Bill of Rights. We did it without even thinking in many states. And I don't think we've ever really recovered from that. He destroyed the economy. We've never been the same since. I mean, I know inflation happened under Biden, and there's still some of it under Trump. But the man who really unleashed all the inflation was Fauci. And these insane lockdowns and destroying our supply chains. We've never really recovered. And I could go on. We're still living with the legacy of the vaccine. People are getting adverse consequences and events to this day. And now, as I said, they're even pushing even more mRNA technology. So I agree with you 1,000,000%, to be honest, George. He needs to be prosecuted, to be exposed. And the liberals, and this to me, I think, George, is maybe the most chilling of all. His crimes are now so obvious and so flagrant. You read the diary, it's sickening. It's a confession. It's one long confession. And yet the Democrats still support him. This is, to me, I'm not saying this lightly. I really mean this. You have people in Russia to this day, a good chunk, 25 to 30% of the population, that still openly admire Joseph Stalin. You're insane. You're certifiable. You're nuts. It's like people in the bunker with Hitler. It's a phenomenon. Historians have been trying to discuss it and analyze it, and they're like, you don't understand. They loved him even then. They're in the bunker. Germany's overrun. The Red Army is 300 yards away. The whole city is being razed to the ground. And they're like, my Fuhrer, my Fuhrer, my Fuhrer. They love Fauci. Even after all of this. And you read the diary, it's so sickening. And he's contradicting in private everything that he said in public. In fact, he's mocking what he said in public. Everything he asked us to do, he's laughing. Literally laughing. These idiots, they think the lockdown's going to work. Ha, 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 ha. These morons, they really believe it's coming from a wet market. Ha, 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 ha. The mask mandates. Oh, my God, don't wear a mask. You're an idiot if you wear a mask. I mean, I could go on and on and on. And he's like, and I'm getting rich, and I'm getting famous, and that's all that matters. If you can't cut him loose now, I don't know what to say. George, I'm bearing my soul to you like I'm in the confessional. What if they tell him to start shooting us? I'm serious. What if they start telling the Bills in Sudbury and the Chris's in Gloucester and these zombies in the Democratic Party, we got to start throwing these conservatives and MAGA Trump supporters. We got to start, for the good of society, for the common good. We got to start throwing them in concentration camps or internment camps. Okay. Okay. I mean, that's the scary part. And it's not just Democrats. It's in Russia. It's in China. How can you still admire Mao? You have Democrats, Hassan Piker. He admires Mao. Abdel Sayed. He admires Mao. You're certifiably insane. That, to me, is what's the scariest of all, George. It's like a death cult. And, I was just following orders, that what the Germans were saying. This isn't even beyond, I was just following orders. It's the way they're defending him. Leave him alone. Leave him alone. He's a poor old man. He was trying to help us. What's your problem? We're supposed to excuse genocide and mass murder? George, final word to you.
Well, you answered. You basically posed a question. This is why we're painted in a corner, and this is why this needs to be addressed now, because it will only escalate. It'll only get more bizarre. I mean, I was just thinking of when I was waiting online or waiting to talk to you. It was like, this sounds kind of dumb, but just take it for what it's worth. But if you ask me how do I identify myself, I identify as an American, a husband, and then a father, and then a business owner. I'd be interested in, like, when you deal with Bill from Sudbury, how does he identify himself? Because my world and his world are so different. I try to be open-minded and objective. I take...
Oh, no, listen, I agree with you. It's funny, I identify as, a Catholic, an American. Joining us now, as she always does at this time, she is the co-founder, CEO, and president of Kelly Financial Services. And yes, that is her wonderful name, Kelly. Kelly, how are you?
Good morning, Jeff. I am good. Technology has made retirement more convenient than ever, but it's also created new opportunities for scammers. That's why staying informed is just as important as ever. Retirement should be a time to enjoy the life you've worked so hard to build, not worry about becoming the target of fraud. Artificial intelligence, phishing emails, fake bank alerts, identity theft, and even voice cloning technology are making today's scams harder to recognize. That's why we're offering our complimentary investor guide, Cybersecurity Self-Awareness for Your Self-Protection. It shares practical strategies to help you recognize common scams, strengthen your online security, and protect your personal information. If you'd like your copy, simply give us a call or email kelly@kellyfinancial.org. Jeff, I'll continue this conversation tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. on Safe Money Strategies Radio. Do tune in or visit our website for the Radio Rewind. Jeff, have a wonderful weekend. My best to Grace and the kiddos.
Thank you, Kelly. All the best to you and everyone at Kelly Financial. To get a free copy of that guide, and I urge all of you, if you can, do get it. Call now, 888-800-1881, 888-800-1881, Or you can actually email Kelly herself personally, kelly@kellyfinancial.org. That's kelly@kellyfinancial.org. 9:33 on the great WRKO. Jeff Kuhner, Boston's bulldozer. I want to go to Rick in St. Louis, but just before I do, there's one thing that is rarely mentioned. It's been mentioned, but not often enough. And to me, it's very telling. It's extremely telling. And I'd love to get an answer. And they've never given us an answer. When they forced all of us to take the jab, the jab or your job, and nurses lost their jobs, doctors lost their jobs, firefighters, policemen, police officers, you name it, corrections officers, people in the military, I could go on and on. Never mind how many of us in the private sector were just destroyed by this. But what was interesting, the groups that were exempted from the COVID mandate, members of Congress, why? All of their staff, the entire legislative staff, all of them exempted. Why? The CDC, the FDA, the NIH, the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Diseases, Fauci's own department, all of them were exempted. Why is that? I'm just curious. Why is that? So why is it that the political class, the bureaucratic class, quote, the ruling class, they all got exemptions? But we didn't? Can somebody explain that to me? Second point, and then I'm going to go to Rick. And this again, they were never able to explain this to us. How come it was okay, according to them, that Black Lives Matter in the summer of 2020, and you saw the crowds, 10,000, 15,000, 20,000, many of them, shoulder to shoulder, elbow to elbow. What's 6 feet? There wasn't 2 inches between them. No. Fauci came out. They all came out and said, it's okay, you don't need to social distance. Remember, the pandemic was very strong. People had COVID. It was spreading like wildfire. But suddenly then, 6 feet, no problem. You don't have to be 6 feet apart. Why was that? In other words, they said, well, fighting racism is more important than COVID. Really? I thought you're all about saving lives. And here's one more. Well, I could go on all day, but just stuff that was just common sense. Why was Bill Gates, and by the way, this is Rand Paul's point, and he's 1,000% correct. The evidence is there. We have it. There's no denying this. It's indisputable. Okay? Fauci, in fact, is bragging about it in his emails and in his diary. But it's there. We have the official confirmation. Throughout the entire pandemic, how is it that one man, Bill Gates, he's not a doctor, he's a private citizen, he has no medical credentials, no medical training, no government clearance of any kind. Yet not only was he allowed, he was told and asked to attend every single Fauci meeting, every single COVID task force meeting, to the point that Fauci is admitting in private that Gates is formulating a lot of the policies, the response to COVID, including, you guessed it, the vaccine mandate. And that, in fact, Gates was saying, forget jabbing every American. We want to jab every person on the face of the earth. And as Rand Paul said, how is this even possible? He's coming in to the most sensitive, intimate government meetings. He has no clearance whatsoever. He has no credentials. He has no professional training. He's just loaded with a lot of money, who's bought off a lot of politicians. That's it. And he was pivotal, central in the formulation of the lockdowns, where, by the way, he made a ton of cash. Let me tell you this. This is another thing. The left, to the socialists listening, all right? How come you never mentioned this point? The greatest transfer of wealth in the history of humanity, occurred during the so-called COVID pandemic. More billionaires were created under the pandemic than in any other time in human history. And it was the greatest transfer of wealth from the middle and working class to the elite of the elite, the wealthiest of the wealthiest. Like Bill Gates, like Jeff Bezos, like Tim Cook. And I could just go on. In other words, the World Economic Forum. It was a transfer of wealth in the trillions of dollars. In the end, in the trillions of dollars. No, we don't redistribute that. No, we don't talk about that. No, because they're lining the pockets of the Democratic Party, because they're the biggest donors to the Democratic Party. So everybody plays stupid. The middle class has never recovered. The working class has never recovered. I believe our country has never recovered. And notice, everything has changed. I mean, just super quick. Working from home. Everybody now works from home. Who works a 40-hour work week now? People don't work full weeks. People work from home. Look at our children who had to endure the school closings. They've never been the same. Their test scores, their learning, their proficiency in math, in reading, their mental health, all of it was catastrophically impacted and damaged. And I'm just touching the tip of the iceberg. It affected society on every profound level. And this guy was the one who kept issuing tyrannical mandate after tyrannical mandate. All the while knowing the damage he was inflicting, and he's laughing. And all he's thinking about is how much more famous, how many more awards, how many more cash prizes, how much more money, how much more of a fortune he can make. You're one sick bastard, man. You know, as Bernie Moreno said, who the F do you think you are? And now, all of a sudden, we're supposed to feel sorry for him? I don't care how you get him. They got Al Capone on tax evasion. I don't care how you get him. Contempt of Congress? Fine. Just get him. Rick in St. Louis. Thanks for holding, Rick, and welcome.
How you doing? I think this is one of your best shows ever here today.
Thank you, Rick.
Love it. I just got a quick story. Back in 2019, right after Thanksgiving, I'm a 100% disabled combat vet. I just left my PTSD doctor, and I was on the phone with my new wife, and I was going past Washington University there in St. Louis. And I was on the phone with her, and I said, oh, my goodness. I looked over. There was Washington has a large Asian population. Every last one of the Asian students was wearing a mask. And they were outside. I said, what is going on here? We didn't even hear about
Rick. Ugh. Okay, let's go right back to Rick in St. Louis. Rick is a disabled veteran. God bless you, Rick. This was in 2019, he said. He's going near the university where he lives, and he hadn't heard of COVID yet. I assume it was like the fall, I guess, of 2019. But he saw all of these Asian students, and they are all wearing masks. Which, by the way, Rick, I noticed the same thing here in Boston. there's a lot of universities here. And it was about September, October, maybe even November. And I'm like, what's with all the masks? And you just began to hear a little rumbling about COVID in China. But you can, hardly hear anything about it. It was just a little bit. And I'm like, what's going on? So anyway, Rick says he watched all of this, didn't know about COVID, didn't hear about COVID. Rick, please pick up where you left off.
All right, there, Jeff. Yeah, like I said, I was on the phone with my new wife at the time, and I was kind of laughing it off because I haven't heard of COVID. And this is right maybe 2 or 3 days after Thanksgiving. And I said, what the heck is going on here? And I mean, there was hundreds of it. Every last Asian student I saw was wearing a mask. And then we know what happened with COVID. It exploded. My problem with, I want Dr. Fauci, I want him held accountable. The VA hospital got to the point where they pushed the jab on me so much. Well, I suffer from PTSD. I have coronary heart disease, and I'm a diabetic. 2007, I had open heart surgery due to my drinking was one of it when I came back from overseas, but I had fistulas in my heart. And right then and there, I survived. I said, you know what? I'm going to change my lifestyle. I hadn't had a drop of drink since 2007. I see my doctor regularly, a couple times a year. I lost almost 80 pounds. I was doing absolutely fantastic and everything I'm supposed to do. The VA pushed that darn shot so much. I got the first shot, second shot, then the booster. And then 1 month, not even a month later after the booster, I had the worst chest pain I had in my life. Ugh. Even when I had my open heart surgery. I went in, they went in and checked. Come to find out, I got 100% blockage to one artery, 50% to another artery, and I have an aneurysm in my heart. And the doctor tried to tell me, he said, oh, this is just over periods of time. I said, no. I said, I get checked out from you guys for the last 10, 12 years, 2 to 3 times a year. I said, so you mean to tell me you missed it over 20, 30 times? No. Jeff, I don't buy it. Because they were going to stop seeing me if I did not take that dang shot. So my new doctor now at the VA, and every time I go in for my checkup, they push it every single time, even to this day. Do I want to take the second booster? We see you need. I said, don't ever ask me again. I don't even take the flu shots no more. I don't like it. But my new doctor at the VA now, I asked him right in his face. I said, hey, it was my heart problems now due to the vaccine, to the shot. And he looked right and he said, I can't say nothing on it. He said, but I'm going to tell you now, don't take no more shots. And that was enough for me. I finally had a doctor who didn't tell me directly, but did tell me. Jeff, I hold so much resentment. I love the military. I love the VA, but I hold a lot of resentment in pushing me to get that darn shot. My wife didn't get the shot. I got COVID 3 times. She got it 3 times. My symptoms were so much worse than her. And the last time I caught it, the nurse had the audacity to look at me in the elevator and said, well, just think about it. If you wouldn't have got those boosters, your COVID would have been so much worse. And I just said, she goes, I had it 6 times. And I said, well, you know what? Well, you're an idiot. You keep getting shot after shot after shot. You're an idiot.
Rick, I'm so sorry. I heard so many cases like yours at the time. This was like 4 or 5 years ago. And I had so many texts and so many emails of people just like you saying they forced it, they wouldn't let it go. And I took the shot, and I've never been the same since, or I got a heart attack, or myocarditis, or whatever, some kind of an ailment. And they go, Jeff, they broke me. They wore me down, and then they broke me. And Rick, I really believe my body, my choice. If you don't want to take the shot, that's your right. And they don't have the right to keep, sure, they can ask you once. Hey, do you want it? We do have it for you. The answer is no. But to badger you the way they did, to pester you, it was harassment. And basically to threaten you. You don't take it, we're not going to treat you. Well, what kind of a choice is that? And, you served our country. You come back with PTSD? You're a disabled veteran? And this is how they treat you? It's disgraceful. Honestly, Rick, it's disgraceful. That's why I want Fauci in jail. But I want a trial, Rick. I want the country, I want the world to know what they did to you and so many people like you, what that monster did. And yes, I want him shamed. I want him publicly shamed. And everybody who supported him, I want them publicly shamed. My friend, they don't just owe you an apology. They owe you money. You want to know the truth? They owe you massive compensation for what they did to you. Rick, again, I'm so sorry. Rick, from the bottom of my heart, I want to thank you for your service. You know how much I love you vets. And, you know, you're a disabled veteran. And just truly, God bless you. Rick, please, don't be a stranger. Call again. And Mike, the next time Rick calls, front of the line. He doesn't wait with Jeff Kuhner. Rick, thank you so much. And again, please take care of yourself. 617-266-6868. I'm sorry. 100% disabled veteran. I'll put him to the front of the line. It's the least we can do for these poor people. So, I mean, these are truly Americans that have been left behind. It's just infuriating, isn't it? I mean, it makes my blood boil. Tom in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Tom, and welcome.
Hello?
Tom,
Jeff?
I've got less than a minute. The floor is yours. Go.
Jeff, great show. Jeff, I just want to say, Peter Navarro twice told President Trump to fire Fauci in January and February.
Mike, you can't. Mike, are you serious? It's the weekend. That's your response?